The following presentation is brought to you by Discovery Education, leading the world of digital and video learning. Discovery Education. Connect to a world of learning.
Geography is the study of the Earth and its physical features, such as its mountains and rivers, as well as the study of the distribution of living things on our planet. Geographers are people who specialize in the study of geography. They use tools, such as maps, to understand the Earth's regions, resources, and climates. The geographers who study the United States find that it is an extremely interesting place, because our country includes almost every kind of geographical feature, from icy glaciers to active volcanoes, from endless stretches of grass-covered plains to towering mountain peaks, from dry rocky deserts to swampy wetlands, from magnificent waterfalls to wide majestic rivers, and from peaceful farmlands to busy, crowded cities. Geographers often divide large territories such as the United States into smaller units to examine them more closely. In this program, we will examine the U.S. as a whole and also take a more detailed look at our country's special land areas, natural resources, waterways, and people. The United States encompasses some 3,794,000 square miles. Over 250,000 square miles of U.S. territory consists of bodies of water, such as the Great Lakes and the Chesapeake Bay. Based on its area, the United States is the third largest country in the world. Only Russia and Canada are bigger. America consists of 50 states, and except for Hawaii, which is out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, every state is located on the continent of North America. The lower 48 states cover much of the North American continent. They are bordered by the nations of Canada on the north and Mexico to the south. Each of these 48 states shares a border with at least one other state. Located in the northernmost region of the continent, Alaska does not adjoin any other states. Instead, it shares its eastern boundary with Canada. Of the 50 states, Alaska is by far the largest, encompassing a land area of nearly 600,000 square miles. In fact, Alaska is more than 500 times the size of Rhode Island, our smallest state. But even though Alaska's land area is so much larger, Rhode Island's population actually exceeds Alaska's by over 400,000 people. States in certain areas of the country are quite similar to one another in terms of their general land features, their climate, and the species of plants and animals that are found there. Based on such similarities, geographers group states together into geographical regions for purposes of study. The 7 basic regions of the United States are the New England region, the Middle Atlantic region, the Southeastern region, the Midwestern region, the Mountain region, the Pacific region, and the Southwestern region. Besides studying the world's land areas, geographers also examine the distribution of its human populations. This branch of geography is known as demography. In 2004, the population of the U.S. was just over 293 million people, making it the third most populous country in the world. In fact, only China and India have larger populations than the U.S. The populations of the individual states vary considerably. California has the largest population with 36 million people, followed by Texas with almost 23 million, and New York with a population of 19 million. Wyoming is the least populated state with slightly more than 500,000 people. On average, there are about 77 people living on each square mile of this country. The concentration of people per square mile is known as the population density. This population density map shows the distribution of the population across the lower 48 states. On this map, populated areas are shown in white. As we can see, there are vast rural areas where very few people live, and many heavily populated city or urban areas. Approximately 68% of the people in the U.S. live in some 452 urbanized areas. In a few of these areas, such as New York City, there are as many as 20,000 people per square mile. In fact, New York City is the largest city in the United States. New York has a population of around 8 million people. Los Angeles, California is the second largest U.S. city, with a population of slightly over 3,700,000 people. And Chicago, Illinois is the third largest U.S. city, with about 2,900,000 residents. In the United States, only 1.5% of the people are Native Americans, that is, people whose ancestors lived on this continent thousands of years ago. Nearly everyone else who lives in America is either a recent immigrant or else is descended from immigrants, meaning people who came here from other countries. Immigrants to our country usually arrive here of their own free will. However, the ancestors of most African Americans were brought here by force to work as slaves. In addition to regions and human populations, geographers also study the Earth's topography, that is, the shape of its lands. To do this, they create topographical maps. Topographical maps are specialized maps that show the elevation, meaning the height of the land, and they also include such features as hills, valleys, and rivers. This topographical map shows the highest elevations colored in dark brown, while the lowest elevations are shown in blue-green. The elevations in between are shown in shades of brown, yellow, and tan. At sea level, the elevation is 0 feet. Almost all the land in the United States lies above sea level. But a few places, such as Death Valley, California, actually lie below sea level. Geographers divide the United States into major land areas based on elevation and type of terrain. For example, one major land area of the United States is called the coastal lowlands. This is the flat, low-lying land that gradually rises from sea level in the eastern part of the country. Another major land area is called the Great Plains. This area is part of the vast interior plains that occupy much of the central part of the lower 48 states. It consists of mostly flat land of medium elevation. The Rocky Mountains, which lie to the west of the Great Plains, make up another major land region. The Rockies are the largest mountain system in North America. This range begins in northern Alaska and extends south through Canada down into northern New Mexico. The towering peaks of the Rockies often soar to over 14,000 feet. In fact, 46 peaks in the state of Colorado are over 14,000 feet tall. In the east, the mountains of the Appalachian Highlands region extend from Alabama north into the Canadian province of Quebec. The tallest peak in the Appalachians is less than half the height of the tallest of the Rocky Mountain peaks. To the west of the Rocky Mountains is a huge area of desert land known as the Great Basin. Streams in this region do not flow into the ocean. Instead, they flow into lakes where the water evaporates. Death Valley, California lies in the Great Basin region. The Cascade and the Sierra Nevada mountain ranges are located to the west of the Great Basin. Both these ranges have numerous peaks over 10,000 feet in elevation. The Cascades are volcanic mountains. Mount St. Helens, a volcano in the Cascades Range, erupted violently back in 1980. Volcanoes are also found in the mountains of Alaska and Hawaii. On these peaks, billowing smoke and hot molten lava flows are quite common sights. "23 of our states have coastlines along bodies of salt water. The Pacific Ocean runs along the west coast and completely surrounds Hawaii, while the Atlantic Ocean forms the eastern coast of the country. The Gulf of Mexico borders the southern coast, and the Arctic Ocean borders the northern coast of Alaska. The Great Lakes occupy 94,000 square miles on or near America's border with Canada. These 5 lakes are Lake Michigan, Lake Superior, Lake Huron, Lake Erie, and Lake Ontario. The Great Lakes as a whole form the largest body of fresh water in the world and are the source of drinking water for many large cities, including Chicago. In addition, the Great Lakes are vital to the shipping industries of both the U.S. and Canada. The longest river in the United States is the Mississippi River. This mighty river flows out of Lake Itasca in Minnesota and eventually empties into the Gulf of Mexico. The Mississippi and its tributaries drain an area of over 1 million square miles, called the Mississippi River Basin. This is almost all the land between the Appalachian Highlands and the Rocky Mountains. In addition, the Mississippi River system handles about 60% of the freight carried on America's inland waterways. The Colorado River, which has its headwaters in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, is one of the principal rivers in the western United States. The Colorado is a major source of drinking water for cities such as Phoenix, Arizona, Los Angeles and San Diego, California, as well as Las Vegas, Nevada. Colorado River water is also used to irrigate desert lands for farming and to generate hydroelectric power. A second major western river is the Columbia River, which begins in the Canadian province of British Columbia and empties into the Pacific at the Oregon-Washington border. The water of this great river also irrigates millions of acres of farmland. Nearly a dozen dams on the Columbia, such as the Grand Coulee Dam in Washington state, generate around 1/3 of the hydroelectric power produced in the U.S. The Columbia can also be navigated by large ocean-going ships that travel as far upstream as Portland, Oregon. A number of very large rivers are found on the east coast of the United States too, and many of them, such as the Savannah River that runs between Georgia and South Carolina, are used by large ships that transport goods. Before the days of electric power, the water power of several eastern rivers was harnessed to run factories like this one in Rhode Island. River water was diverted to turn water wheels that were connected to belts and pulleys that ran machines throughout the factories. And in this way, the eastern rivers helped power the Industrial Revolution that changed the American way of life during the 19th century. In addition to studying waterways, landforms, and population, geographers are also quite interested in the communities of animals and plants, called biomes. The United States features a wide variety of biomes, such as forests, grasslands, and deserts. When studying biomes, geographers prepare vegetation or land cover maps that are based on the predominant forms of plant life in a certain area. The yellow-green color on this vegetation map shows that temperate conifer forests cover much of the land near the Pacific coast, the Rocky Mountains, and the southeastern region of the lower 48 states. These are forests of cone-bearing trees that thrive in temperate climates where great extremes of temperature rarely occur. In Idaho, Oregon, and Washington, temperate conifer forests of fir and spruce trees cover thousands of square miles. Temperate broadleaf forests, shown in blue-green, cover vast areas of land in the eastern half of the United States. Broadleaf forests are made up of hardwood trees, such as maples and oaks. These forests provide an excellent habitat for deer and many other animals. And, unlike most conifers, broadleaf trees are deciduous, meaning that they lose their leaves each fall, usually creating quite a brilliant spectacle as they do so. Compared to the great forest biomes of the west and east, very few trees are found in the temperate grasslands that extend across much of the central United States. Huge herds of buffalo once grazed on these grasslands before the buffalo hunters and settlers nearly wiped them out. Certain areas of the United States receive very little moisture each year. These desert biomes are all located to the west of the Mississippi River. In the hottest deserts, such as those of southern Arizona, very few large trees grow, but lots of spectacular cactus plants thrive in this harsh environment. Climate, that is, the long-term weather patterns of an area, is another subject that is of great interest to geographers. Climates in the U.S. play a key role in its biomes, determine how its crops grow, and influence the way that people live. This climate map shows the average July temperatures for the lower 48 states, while this climate map shows the average January temperatures. The dark blue areas are places where the average January temperature is from 0 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit. In the purple areas, the average temperature in January is between 15 and 30 degrees Fahrenheit. These below freezing temperatures mean that winters are quite cold across most of the northern states, and people can spend a fair amount of their time shoveling snow. The dark orange color in the extreme southern part of the United States indicates average January temperatures of over 60 degrees, while the light orange color indicates where temperatures average 45 to 60 degrees. This means that certain areas of America's southern states feature mild winter temperatures that would be considered almost summer-like in some northern states. The annual precipitation map seen here shows how much precipitation or moisture falls each year across the lower 48 states. In the areas that are colored yellow-green, there are 40 to 60 inches of precipitation each year, while the blue-green area receives 20 to 40 inches a year. As we can see, almost the entire eastern half of the United States falls into the category of receiving fairly abundant yearly moisture. In contrast, the areas shaded in tan receive less than 10 inches of precipitation each year. This lack of moisture creates desert conditions. In these areas, farmers cannot rely on rainfall and need to bring in water to irrigate their crops. Most agricultural products are raised on arable farmland, that is, land that is suitable for raising crops. Every state has some arable land, but the amount of farmland varies considerably from state to state. Some crops, such as potatoes, can be raised successfully in any state, and crops of soybeans, corn, and wheat are grown all across the U.S. But certain crops, like these oranges and other citrus fruits, will grow only in the warmest parts of the country. In the western United States, large areas of land are unsuitable for farming due to poor soil or climate. But they are still very useful to ranchers as grazing land for cattle and sheep. Geographers studying the output of U.S. farms and ranches create land use maps to show where agricultural products are raised. Each crop is symbolized by an illustration. For example, this symbol of an ear of corn indicates places where corn is raised. And using this symbol of a fruit tree indicates an area where fruit is raised. Geographers also use symbols on land use maps to show where natural resources such as oil and coal are produced. In this case, the symbol of an oil derrick shows where oil wells are located, and the symbol of a coal car indicates the location of coal mines. Most of the oil produced in America comes from Texas, while Alaska is second in oil production. Louisiana, Oklahoma, and California are leading oil-producing states as well. Even though the United States is one of the major petroleum-producing countries in the world, our nation still must import more than half the oil it uses. That is because the United States is the leading consumer of energy-rich petroleum products. In fact, Americans use far more oil than the citizens of any other nation on Earth. Although most oil is used to make gasoline to run our cars, oil and other fossil fuels, such as coal and natural gas, are also burned to produce electricity. In fact, in the United States, 60% of our electricity comes from these non-renewable energy resources. This means that once these resources are used up, they're gone forever. Renewable resources that are derived from wind, water, and sunlight are never used up. But renewable resources currently supply only about 12% of America's electricity. Although America's reserves of oil and natural gas are rapidly vanishing, coal is still extremely abundant in the United States. In fact, our nation has the largest coal reserves of any country in the world. Most of our coal is mined in Wyoming, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Pennsylvania. But more coal is mined in the rich coal fields of Wyoming than in all the other leading coal states combined. As we have seen, geographers have devised many interesting and useful ways of studying different aspects of our country. From its abundant natural resources, to its bountiful farms, to its varied landforms, to its diverse biomes, to its wide range of climates, to its incredible waterways, and to its amazing cities and people. And by examining the United States in all of these ways, geographers have greatly increased the understanding of our complex and beautiful land. True or false? Alaska is the largest state in land area. True or false? Demography is the study of the distribution of human populations. True or false? Most of America's temperate broadleaf forests are in the western states. True or false? Death Valley, California lies below sea level. True or false? The Great Plains are located to the west of the Rocky Mountains.